You probably think McDonald's makes money by selling burgers. That sounds obvious. You buy a Big Mac. McDonald's gets the money. You buy fries. McDonald's gets even more. Repeat that millions of times and you have one of the biggest restaurant businesses on earth. But that's not really how McDonald's works. Because McDonald's isn't simply a burger company. It's a massive franchise and real estate system that happens to sell billions of dollars worth of food. And here's where it gets interesting. In 2025, McDonald's generated more than $139 billion in system-wide sales. That's the total amount customers spent across the McDonald's system. But McDonald's Corporation doesn't record all $139 billion as its own revenue. So where does the money actually go? And more importantly, how does McDonald's make money from restaurants it doesn't even operate itself? That's the real economics behind McDonald's. By September 2025, McDonald's had 44,599 restaurants worldwide, and roughly 95% of them were franchised. Think about that. McDonald's doesn't personally have to hire every employee. It doesn't have to directly operate every restaurant. And it doesn't have to put all of its own money into building every location. Instead, thousands of franchisees operate restaurants under the McDonald's system. They invest their own capital. They hire employees. They manage the restaurants. They deal with local operations. And customers come in and spend money. McDonald's then makes money through things like franchise fees, rent, and royalties. So here's a question. If you had enough money to open a McDonald's, would you rather operate the restaurant yourself or build a system where other people operate restaurants under your brand? Because McDonald's has built an entire business around the second idea. And this is where most people misunderstand the company. You might think McDonald's is primarily selling burgers, but the burger is only the product the customer sees. Behind that burger is a much bigger machine. There's branding, real estate, supply chains, technology, franchising, marketing, and decades of operating experience. Imagine opening your own independent burger restaurant. You have to find a location. You have to design the restaurant. You have to buy equipment. You have to hire employees. You have to create a menu. You have to build a brand. And then you have to convince people to show up. McDonald's has already done most of that work. The brand already exists. The menu already exists. The operating procedures already exist. The technology already exists. And millions of customers already know exactly what the golden arches mean. That familiarity is incredibly valuable. But McDonald's has another advantage. Real estate. This is one of the most misunderstood parts of the business. McDonald's has historically owned or secured long-term control over a large amount of the real estate associated with its restaurants. The franchisee operates the restaurant, while McDonald's can earn rent and other payments connected to that location. And that changes the economics completely, because McDonald's isn't only asking, how many burgers can this restaurant sell? It's also asking, how much economic value can we generate from this location? Think about two restaurants. Restaurant A generates $2 million in annual sales. Restaurant B also generates $2 million. At first glance, they look identical. But what if Restaurant A sits in an expensive location with terrible occupancy costs, while Restaurant B sits in a strategically valuable location with better economics? The sales numbers are identical. The profits can be completely different. That's why location matters so much in the restaurant business. And it's one reason McDonald's treats real estate as such an important part of its model. Now imagine you're the franchisee. You find a location, you invest your capital, you build or equip the restaurant. You hire employees, you manage the operation. Customers arrive, they buy burgers, fries, drinks, and everything else. But you don't get to keep every dollar. Because operating under the McDonald's brand comes with financial obligations. McDonald's earns money from franchise restaurants through rent, royalties, and other franchise-related payments. And this creates something incredibly powerful. McDonald's can expand its restaurant network without having to directly operate every location. The franchisee takes on much of the day-to-day operating responsibility. McDonald's provides the brand, system, standards, and infrastructure, and both sides participate in the economics. Now think about what happens when you scale that model. One restaurant is one restaurant. 10 restaurants are a small restaurant company. 100 restaurants are a serious operation. But McDonald's has thousands of franchisees operating tens of thousands of locations around the world. As of September 2025, McDonald's had more than 42,000 franchise restaurants. That's the power of the system. Every additional restaurant creates another place where the McDonald's brand can generate economic value. And that's why the $139 billion system-wide sales number matters. It shows the enormous amount of economic activity happening across the network. But there's another important distinction. System-wide sales are not the same thing as McDonald's corporate revenue. If a customer spends $15 at a franchise McDonald's, that $15 has to cover the costs of operating that restaurant. Food, labor, utilities, maintenance, insurance, occupancy, and other expenses. The franchisee is running a real business. McDonald's doesn't simply take the entire $15. Instead, the corporation participates in the economics through its franchise and real estate model. And that's why McDonald's can be incredibly scalable. It doesn't need to personally make every burger to benefit from the restaurant network. It needs the system to work. The franchisees need to make money. The customers need to keep coming. And the McDonald's brand needs to remain valuable. That brings us to another massive part of the business: technology. McDonald's is no longer just a place where you walk up to a counter and order food. The smartphone has effectively become another McDonald's storefront. Customers can order through the app, they can earn rewards, they can receive promotions, they can customize orders, and they can come back again. In 2025, McDonald's said system-wide sales to loyalty members across 70 markets reached nearly $37 billion, with almost 210 million active loyalty users at the end of the year. That's a huge digital ecosystem, and it gives McDonald's something extremely valuable: repeat customers. Because getting someone to buy a burger once is useful, getting them to come back every week is much more valuable. Now let's look at a hypothetical restaurant. Imagine a McDonald's location generates $3 million in annual sales. That sounds incredible. But $3 million in sales does not mean $3 million in profit. You still have food costs, labor, utilities, maintenance, insurance, occupancy costs, franchise-related payments, taxes, debt, and plenty of other expenses. Suddenly, that $3 million starts looking a lot smaller. And this is one of the biggest lessons in restaurant economics. Revenue is not profit. A restaurant can generate millions in sales and still be a mediocre investment, and another restaurant with lower sales can potentially produce better returns if its costs are better controlled. So if someone offered you a McDonald's franchise tomorrow, what would you look at first? The brand, the number of customers, or the actual financials of the location? Because the golden arches can attract customers, but they don't pay your bills. The restaurant still needs efficient operations. It needs employees. It needs customers. It needs a strong location. And it needs enough sales to cover everything. And there's another reason McDonald's has become so powerful: scale. The company can negotiate across a massive global network. It can invest in technology across thousands of restaurants. It can launch marketing campaigns at enormous scale. It can standardize operations. And it can build a brand that is recognized in markets all over the world. That creates an advantage that a small independent burger restaurant simply cannot replicate overnight. But the model isn't risk-free. McDonald's still has to deal with rising labor costs, food inflation, changing customer preferences, competition, real estate costs, and franchisee economics. Customers have more choices than ever. They can choose burgers, chicken, pizza, sandwiches, or they can simply stay home and cook. So McDonald's has to constantly give customers a reason to come back. That's why value meals matter, why promotions matter, why technology matters, why loyalty programs matter, and why menu innovation matters. Because the real goal isn't just selling one burger, it's creating a customer who comes back again and again. Now step back and look at the entire system. More than 44,000 restaurants, roughly 95% franchised, more than $139 billion in system-wide sales in 2025, a massive real estate network, franchise royalties, rent, technology, marketing, and one of the most recognizable brands on earth. That is not just a burger business. It's a system designed to turn thousands of individual restaurants into one global economic machine. And that's why McDonald's is so different from the average restaurant. The average restaurant is mainly worried about selling enough food to survive. McDonald's is thinking much bigger. How do we choose the location? How do we structure the franchise? How do we keep customers coming back? How do we increase sales per restaurant? How do we make the system more efficient? And how do we expand the brand without putting all the capital burden on ourselves? That is the real genius of the model. McDonald's doesn't need to sell every burger itself. It built a system where thousands of other operators help expand the brand. So if you had $3 million tomorrow, would you put it into a McDonald's business or invest that money somewhere completely different? Because after looking at the economics, the answer isn't as obvious as it sounds. A McDonald's isn't a magic money machine. It's a highly engineered business system. The franchisee takes on the operational risk. Employees run the restaurants, customers provide the sales, and McDonald's sits at the center of the system, collecting value through franchising, real estate, and its global brand. That's why the Golden Arches became much bigger than a restaurant. McDonald's isn't just selling burgers, it's selling a system. And the real money isn't necessarily in the fries, it's in everything happening behind the counter.